on, Wolfpack Nation? Hope everybody's doing well today. Thank you all so much for tuning in here for another episode of Tuffy Talk. We are so excited to be sitting here 6-2. Again, you can't complain, for sure, but us here at Tuffy Talk, we're going to complain for about 0.0 seconds about being 6-2. That's all I'm saying. So with that being said, obviously today we're going to be doing a preview of this huge top 2021, top 25 matchup, NC State versus Wake Forest, in-car friendly, 8 p.m. this Saturday. So again, first of all, before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's just free to do. It really helps support us and the channel, and also to really make sure as well that you don't miss out on any new NC State content. And if you really don't want to make sure you miss out, hit that little notification bell as well, as that's also free. And also, so that way you're notified all your devices whenever we release any new NC State content. And also to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram. And also, if you think NC State is going to win this game against Wake Forest, hit that like button for us as well. So with that being said, again, 6-2, y'all. Sitting here, right now the line, it's funny, the line actually opened at 3.5 points. Wake Forest is favored, and now it's moved to 5. So it's a pretty significant jump for sure. But again, I think a lot of NC State fans are even shocked that it's even 5, especially with how many issues State's had up until the last half of the third quarter against Virginia Tech, where we started to kind of pick it up there. But Michael, I mean, what was your kind of initial reaction? Did you kind of see that as being where the line was going to end up, or were you actually expecting a little bit more points towards Wake Forest?
Yeah, I was. It's at home, so I mean, obviously, I think that 15-game win streak we have at home plays a factor there, and Absolutely. You got Wake Forest coming off a terrible performance against just an average Louisville team. So I think that also played a factor in it too. But I don't know. Seems about right to me, somewhere in that 3 to 5 range.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Macon?
Well, honestly, I didn't even know that was a thing until you said that. I thought I'd heard it had gone down from about 3 to 2.5. I guess it shot back up at some point, maybe. But I mean, that's fair. I mean, you could think of being home, it's like a 3-point advantage or so, and
right.
So that means that they would be favored by 8. Maybe it's more. I think State though can play. I know we're probably getting a little ahead of myself. I think they can play like they have nothing to lose going into this game, and it certainly helps that you're having it at home and you're having it as a night game. I wasn't so shocked by the line, but it was a little surprising. I thought it might have been like a 6 or 7, but by this point, not opening up like 2 or 3. So,
and again, it's always interesting to take a look at really, kind of what is going on with the betting lines in terms of, how much is being bet for each team. And so here, let me actually pull it up right now. So right now, 80% of bets so far are on Wake Forest spread.
Yeah.
And 96% of the money, 96% of the total dollars have been bet on Wake Forest minus 3.5.
They just don't even think State's going to be able to show up, is what they think.
That's it. Yep.
That's why you see the line move, because Vegas puts out that line and then they react to what people bet on. So,
yep. So that's probably why there's been such a huge movement. But again, I think the one thing which I want to go ahead and address, because I know a lot of State fans are saying this, is, because I think first of all, we can all admit that Wake Forest having 8 turnovers in one game is first of all ridiculous.
And no matter who it is,
matter who it is. Well, because the crazy
against Duke.
Exactly. And that tied like an NCAA record or something like that, for eight turnovers. So for Wake Forest to do it, right after Miami, the week after Miami does it is crazy. So, I know a lot of State fans, a lot of fans in general are going to say, well, obviously Wake Forest is going to have a huge bounce back game from that, which, I mean, to me, it also too kind of goes with the argument of, well, they're going to play pissed off now. Which again, it's like that can have some to do with it. But I also would say right back to that though, as well, is at the end of the day, keep in mind that a lot of NC State players are probably thinking back to last year and how, I mean, a call that probably should have gone the way of NC State with Ricky Person recovering the onside kick like right at 10 yards past the kickoff spot. That easily could have gone NC State's way, and then NC State would have had a great chance to go and get into field goal range and tie the game. So, I kind of shoot right back at that, saying, a lot of NC State players are going to come out really looking to get even for last year, even too. So, and again, NC State just doesn't like to win, doesn't like to lose at home. They obviously don't. So they take a lot of pride in that. So, I mean, it's going to be a tough environment. I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens uniforms wise, which, I mean, by the time this episode comes out, we'll probably know by then, but I'm hoping it's a banger to get the players, get the fans hype. But so Macon, kind of give me, your thoughts, in terms of, kind of what I was going at in terms of, Wake Forest obviously having a terrible, terrible game against Louisville. Third quarter was just absolutely horrendous. And, because the funniest thing to me is that literally, I think it was David Pollock said that Wake Forest beating Louisville is the lock of the day. Like, there's no doubt in their minds that Wake Forest is going to be Louisville.
In fact,
they got crushed.
Desmond was basically like, have you seen Louisville play? Like, he made that kind of comment sarcastically, like, oh, yeah, there's no way. And Desmond Howard. So, I was shocked by that. I think, we're going to be previewing Louisville here in a few weeks, but I think Louisville's starting to find their groove. And I think getting them when we do, which is they're going to have to play Clemson the week before they play us, I think is really, really good spot, especially this late in the season. But yeah, it was honestly, that was one of the best games in college football this past weekend, in my opinion, watching it for me. Just because of how like shocking it was, honestly, that kind of like same when we look at that for different reasons. You look at that Kansas State, Oklahoma State score this weekend, 48-0. That was crazy. So, but Louisville embarrassing Wake Forest like they did was, I mean, I really think that was the word. They just embarrassed them.
I'm looking at the box score here. All 8 of Wake Forest turnovers came in the second half.
Wow. And we're by the quarterback position. There was 6 by Sam Hartman and 2 by the backup. That. So Wake was up 14-13 at halftime, and all 8 came in the second half. Yeah, Sam Hartman, I think, had 3 picks and 3 fumbles.
And 3 fumbles. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. He honestly probably has as many turnovers he's had all season just in one game. And it was last 3 years. He takes care of the ball really well. But I think he's a really great quarterback for that system. I think he's just really learned that system very well. But seeing them lose Louisville like that, man, I mean, Malik Cunningham's no joke. I know we're not talking about Louisville, but that was a crazy game. They seemed to really pick on that cornerback number 13, Keitrell Clark for Louisville, and he made them pay towards the end. But they got some great receivers, Wake Forest, and State's secondary, their linebackers, particularly the secondary, are really going to have to play a great game for this to be something State can win, to be honest with you.
Yep. Well, and I mean, because one move that was very interesting, which, we're obviously by this point, I've already talked about this some on the Tuffy Talk live show, but, one thing which I thought was really interesting was how Doran and the defense moved Tyler Baker-Williams to cornerback.
Yeah.
In the second half of the Virginia Tech game. So what were your kind of initial thoughts on that, Michael? I mean, to me, it makes sense because obviously, up until this point, Tyler Baker-Williams has been great as the best pass coverage guy that we have. So, obviously there was, a kind of a focus on the outside wide receiver to really, shut him down. But what were your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, so I was at the game. I didn't realize that until you just said that. So that's something
he was. Yeah.
On TV.
Yeah, it was.
That might not be something you see in the stadium. So that's. Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, I mean, it makes sense. I'm assuming it was after the 2 deep balls that they moved in the corner.
Yeah, it was really they pulled Shaheem and they put Tyler Baker-Williams over, which is very interesting. Macon, go ahead.
No, you got it, Michael. Go ahead and finish your comment.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, I mean, it makes sense if Battle got beat pretty badly twice, and Tyler Baker-Williams has been one of our best in man coverage.
Yep.
I wouldn't expect to see him start at corner this weekend, but it sometimes that's what you got to do when somebody's just having an off night, get them back on track.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Wake Forest look at that film and watch that and do very similar. They're going to probably try to hit Shine Battle, which he had a bad night. I don't think he's been that bad. It's just going to be something that they are going to see, and they'd be smart to try to exploit.
Well, and we'll obviously talk about kind of what are the keys to the game, but definitely the first thing which immediately stands out to me is Tanner Engel has to have the game of his life. Like, he needs to have a huge game, because it really
why do you say that?
Because first of all, I think that up until this point, Tanner Engel has played solid at some points, but he really hasn't had that game where he's really highlighted himself on the field, where after the game we're saying, man, did y'all see Tanner Engel? Like, dude, that dude was ridiculous. Because up until this point, it's been more of, unfortunately, like the ECU game and the Syracuse game, where it was like, man, like that was a lot of missed tackles. So to me, I feel like that he's due for it, but also too, because just like you were saying, Sam Hartman, especially with a guy as big and as talented as A.T. Perry. I mean, that dude is ridiculous. He has NFL all over him and then some, and especially too, because I mean, our corners are not the tallest either. So, I mean, it's really just going to come down to, I mean, really Tanner Engel being that quarterback of the pass coverage and really, just covering where he needs to and just being there, make the plays, and I mean, hopefully get a pick or two as well. Because I think that's one thing, I'd have to really go back and look at the stats, but I feel like we really haven't forced that many turnovers so far. I'd have to go back and look at the stats, but just that's one thing that just kind of, I felt like we were needing against Virginia Tech. It was like we need a turnover, like we need a spark play. So
we had the first couple of games we were very good. I think we were leading the ACC through the first 4 games in interceptions, but yeah, like you said, it's the last couple of games we haven't had that turnover, those big turnovers, really,
and especially too. And especially too in the offseason, because we were really focusing on, we need to force more fumbles, like we were doing great last year in interceptions, but we just weren't really, getting the hat to the ball to force some fumbles. And we definitely need all that and then some against Wake Forest. Go ahead,
Nathan. State's not actually that bad. I'm looking at it here through 8 games. They have, according to NCAA.com, they're ranked 26th in the country. Through 8 games, 2 fumble recoveries. They've had, I think they said they forced opponent interceptions, 11 interceptions. And let's see, fumbles lost. State has lost 4 fumbles, had 4 interceptions through the season. So the margin is a +5 on turnovers through the season, and it's averaging 0.62 turnovers in our favor, I guess, a game. So surprisingly, who's tied for who's number. There's 3 ACC teams in the top 5. There's Duke at 2, Georgia Tech at 3, and Louisville at 4, which is actually really interesting because they're
Yeah. Well, you said Louisville.
Yeah.
Well, that's
probably
because
a lot of them were that last game, right?
And Duke.
And Duke did Miami, exactly. yeah.
That helps when you get 8 in one game. Yeah.
Right. That is true.
yeah. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time wearing and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. And again, y'all, and just to kind of throw this in there too, is, as much as State fans want to complain, be like, man, we're terrible right now. You could be Miami. I'm just saying, giving up 8 turnovers, and then this past week against Virginia, not having a single touchdown. So you could be Miami. But anyway, though, and as my headset comes out, so one thing which kind of wanted to discuss is obviously, talking Wake Forest offense first versus defense. I think that is going to be the key of this game. I think that if we can limit Sam Hartman then we're going to be in a great position. Because I truly do believe MJ Morris can be can be effective. And actually, too, let's jump right into that, because that's definitely a huge, I think, factor for this. So, how much hype do you really believe, Macon, in MJ Morris for this game? And I mean, do you really see, what you saw him do against Virginia Tech in that second half, kind of come back down to earth, or do you see him kind of continuing that trend?
I don't know if it's fair to expect him to do exactly what he did against Virginia Tech, because that was special what he did against Virginia Tech. In one half of football, he had 3 touchdowns essentially.
Right.
I don't think it's fair to expect him to do that again.
Sure.
So that's my honest thought about that. I think Wake Forest is certainly a better team and a better coach team right now than Virginia Tech is. It's not even close. So I think it's going to be something where you're going to see them do some next level kind of defensive shifts and changes and disguising their coverages and those kinds of things, to where they're going to really test a true freshman quarterback's knowledge of the game. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect him to have a great game. I just don't. I don't think that's wrong to say, but yeah, that's my answer. I don't think so. Can he? Yeah, I think it's really. I do think really State's going to play like they have nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. They need to play. They need to take shots down the field. They need that every game. They should have been doing that more early in the season. But look what happens when you do. Like MJ showed he can do it, and you had a guy like Terrell Timmons, another true freshman, come out of nowhere, and he had the one catch that he should have had, and another one he should have had that he dropped. So, you kind of have something there that hasn't really been a lot on film. And even a guy like Terrell Timmons, he's probably a young guy. He needs to learn the route tree a little bit better, because all he was doing was catching deep balls there, but or at least the ones that you remember. So I think MJ can do it. I just think they're going to have to be given opportunities to take those shots. Be creative. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like, it's probably not going to happen. People don't think Tim Beck is all that creative. I think Tim Beck can be pretty creative at times. There's some nice plays he's had. I think he had some nice plays against Virginia Tech called. But
that touchdown pass that to Trent Penix, like it was nice. Obviously on the goal line, but he was wide open. Like nobody saw Penix come out of the backfield. So
and you can't even expect Morris to be able to know all the ins and outs of this offense either. Our offense, not just he's a freshman, he's new environment, but I think also coming in a night game at home, just like he was a night game at home last week at Virginia Tech, similar environment. I think it'll be big, and I think there's another big thing too. People don't realize, like, State was down 21-3, and everybody knew they were going to have to throw the ball, and they still did it with a true freshman quarterback. So, if State's defense can do anything in helping them not, preventing Wake Forest from scoring and getting a huge lead early or anything like that, I think State's going to have a chance. Demi Sumo's expected to be back. That'll be big too, having another weapon in the rushing game. Sorry, I was long-winded, but I don't think you can expect Morris to be the exact same, but I think it's possible he can be.
Well, and again, the one thing which I do want to first of all remind State fans too is that even Mike Glennon, listen to him on the Pack Therapy podcast. I mean, he was absolutely blown away by MJ, saying, I mean, any true freshman quarterback, playing an ACC team, no matter what ACC team it is, and playing as well as he did, again, 20 of 29 for 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, that's impressive. Straightforward.
And for the most part of it, at least the touchdowns, that was like one half of football. I mean, he probably had like 80 yards or so in the first half when he was throwing, but that's really impressive.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and also too, I mean, that first throw to Thayer Thomas, the first touchdown to Thayer Thomas was gorgeous and insanely amazing. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, and to do that, like Macon, you were saying, when you're down 21-3, everybody knows you're going to have to throw the ball, and they can play the pass. And for him to still make those throws, and obviously, like you said, Timmons and the other receivers to step up and make the catches, it's encouraging because
I mean, Timmons, we're talking about Timmons here, but there's between Thayer Thomas and Devin Carter, who showed up and looked really good. At least he was getting thrown the ball. They had 21 targets between those two guys. We're talking Timmons here, but like because it was a break and like I won't say a breakout game, but it was kind of like a whoa. Carter and Thomas were really good the other night. And that helped State out a lot, particularly that it wasn't just Thayer Thomas, that Devin Carter appeared. So if he can have both those guys and maybe Porter Rooks has a big game, his first, big game of the season, or maybe Lassane has another big game like he had against Clemson, that would be a really big deal for State and Morris, just some security there. I think the receivers need to, I think, also say, hey, Morris, we got you, right? So.
Right. Well, and that's the beautiful thing, though, about Virginia Tech. And see, I think this is really what it comes down to for me is I don't necessarily say that Chambers played bad. I just think that just with him in there, just the offense just was not really clicking at all. And so they basically said, well, let's try something different. Let's put MJ in there. Well, once MJ got in there, everybody changed. Like Devin Carter looked like Devin Carter, ladies and gentlemen. Like, and Terrell Timmons started to really break out. Obviously Trent Penix, with the touchdown. So I mean, it just shows that obviously, because even too, up until that point, well, at least in the second half, the defense was just awful. I mean, absolutely terrible. In those first three drives, obviously letting Virginia Tech go all the way down the field, score a touchdown every time. But then once MJ went in, even the defense changed completely. I think it was like -4 yards of total offense after that third drive for Virginia Tech the rest of the game. So it just seemed like just MJ Morris just gave the whole team new life, a completely new life. It was a completely different team once MJ Morris took over. So, I mean, it's definitely no doubt that the guys rally around MJ. They believe him. Like after the game, seeing like Jordan Houston on Instagram being like, having his arm around MJ and be like, he's him, the young gun, all that. Like, you love to see that. And so
you're not thinking about who should be a fan favorite. This is really random. I think should be a fan favorite if you think about it for fans. This is super random.
Go for it.
It's Colin Smith. And you know why? Because if you see Colin Smith, that means you're scoring a lot of touchdowns.
That's true.
And a good sign.
And because give background, because Colin Smith,
he's a kickoff guy, so he's a kicker. Sorry, I was thinking about if my brother brought it up, he's like thinking if MJ when he started scoring touchdowns, like this is the first time we've seen Colin Smith the whole game, and we saw him like 3 times in the second half. So
yeah. Well, because I remember, I think it was after we kicked the field goal. I think the kickoff at the end of the first half was heading into halftime. And I remember when Ripken the bat dog ran out there, it was like the loudest cheer of the whole game, which I always thought was hilarious.
It was. Yeah.
So,
but anyways, I was thinking about scoring there because there was, I don't even know how you transition away to the going back to, I just really random, but it was just with the scoring there. I'm just curious with that you look at PFF's grades for Wake Forest. They're pretty strong in the rush defense game, but I feel like their weakest is in the passing game. So I think you should try it if you're State. MJ could have another really good night. I think if you can somehow win the line of scrimmage here, I think you're in a pretty good spot. I feel like that'd be a good indicator. I'm curious who you guys think for this Wake Forest game. If you had to pick one player on offense and defense, I think we can all pick on offense, probably MJ, but if there's a guy on defense that you really need to have a big game, is there anybody in mind that you guys think of?
Well, I already said mine, Tanner Engel. So go ahead, Michael.
Whoever's going to be guarding A.T. Perry, whether that's Battle or Aiden White or Tyler Baker Williams, whoever's on him. Yeah. Yeah.
To me, I kind of come back to after watching that Louisville Wake Forest game. I think with Savion Jackson out, I think Davin Vann and Corey Durden are going to need to have some big games if you want to really win this game. Maybe even a young guy like Trevally Price, Josh
Harris, CJ
Josh
Clark,
Harris.
something.
Yeah. I really think though, if I had to pick a guy, if I could get 2 sacks from from Devin Van, I would feel really good. If I get a couple sacks from the linebacking core, I would feel really good. But if I had to pick one guy, I think Devin Van, because he's shown like he might be the best guy to be able to get to the quarterback on our defensive line, in my opinion. I really would. I think if I had to pick one guy, it's him, because pressure got to Sam Hartman, and that's when he really, really struggled. Going on the road at a night game, I feel like if you can get pressure on him, which the commentator, somebody tweeted out that the commentator said, Louisville is getting pressure on Sam Hartman today, and it's a good thing essentially because State's not going to really be able to do that, or State's not going to do that. So that'd be bulletin board material for me if I'm Tony Gibson. Like the quote, like, we blitz all night. I feel like that's what it should be. Blitz the fire out of Sam Hartman. So
I agree. So with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, we need to take a pause right there in part 1. And part 2, we're going to kind of wrap this up here, talk a little bit more about Sam Hartman and the Wake Forest offense versus our defense. And then we'll start to get into kind of our keys of the game and then our final game predictions as well. So with that being said, once again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you think NC State is going to win, hit that like button, and then give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter or Instagram. But with that being said, we'll see y'all for part 2. As always, go Pack, baby.